Cosplay Stitch and Seam. I'm Pannon.
I'm V-Fire.
And I'm David.
Hooray!
Yeah!
I'll just need a fun exclamation after the names.
Huzzah!
Hooray! Huzzah!
There's one podcast that I listen to called How Did This Get Played? Which is a great video game podcast with some very funny people. Very mature at times, but very funny. And they all have like different things they quote from different video games. And it's like, hello, everybody. And then welcome back, Bucket. And it's just like, they just kind of cycle through them. And it's a great thing. So yeah,
Nice.
Mercedes, you and I, we need to find like our own thing to add to the yay.
Very good. Very good. Well, if you guys listening at home have anything you'd like to add, you can send that to us at cosplaystitchandseam@gmail.com
Or you can go to the website, cosplaystitchandseam.com, and fill out the googly Google form, or
go to the Facebook page and send us your horror stories there. And while you're there, join our fantastic group. Join our awesome community that has just been so helpful to each other and to ourselves. It's been really great to work with all of you. And if you're not a big fan of Facebook, if you keep your eye on our Facebook page and our Discord, we keep an eye on our Facebook page and our Twitter. Occasionally, we do share a link to our Discord where you can also send us your cosplay horror stories or just, again, hang out with some really fantastic, awesome people. You get to promote some of your own things, too. Like, we had somebody who's promoting their Final Fantasy dub, right?
Let me find it, because it sounds super cool. It's a Final Fantasy IX theatrical audio book. So they did like an audio novelization.
And I've listened to a little bit of it. It's pretty good. I'm pretty pleased. Also, we got to talk about Moon Knight and the new Loki series. So you're missing out if you're not on the Discord. But if you're on the internet and you want to help us out, hey, remember that club that I mentioned last week? If you want to join our club, all you got to do is just share the podcast with a friend. I'm keeping the bit going, you guys. Keeping the bit going.
Cool Kids Cosplay Club.
Exactly. You just share Cosplay Stitch and Seam with different people. It's great. And while you're on the internet and you're sharing the episodes, you could also leave us a review. Those help us out immensely. Go to Apple Podcasts, go to Audible, go to Podchaser, wherever they let you leave a podcast review. Not just stars. If you can type out little nice words, those help too. And anything like that, we'll give you a shout out on the show while you are also on the internet. And if you want to do a little bit more, go above and beyond, we do have a Ko-fi, KOFI Cosplay Stitch, or we have a Patreon, patreon.com/Cosplay Stitch. I don't know why my brain broke on that one.
I was like, are
Sorry,
you waiting
David?
for one of us?
I don't know what was going on there.
I was like, I'm not ready.
Cosplay Stitch. Cosplay Stitch.
Okay. You can go to patreon.com/cosplay stitch. And for $3 a month, we give you a shout out on the show. And for $5 a month, then you can join our Cosplay Chronicle.
Chronicle.
We will be playing July 11th next time. And maybe Talon, our good boy, will have a new mount to displace through reality. I don't know. We haven't figured that part out yet.
I do love the running joke.
Or he's gonna be a snack.
Also that. You gotta tune in on the 11th and find out.
Yeah.
See what the dice do. We'll find that out.
V-Fire, do you want to tell us about the community project we've got going on?
Yeah, send in your fanfics. We want to read them for our birthday month. And so get those in by June 30th. And 5,000 words or less, PG-13. If you want to send something non-PG-13, I'll still read it. Just not on the episode. We'll talk about it. And let's just express creativity and have some super duper awesome fun, guys.
Yeah, we've had a few submissions come in. And just as a question that's come up was can it be an existing work, something you've already done? And yes, of course, definitely send that to us. It doesn't have to be new specifically for this. We just want to see some of your awesome fan creations. So And then, let's see. Oh, of course, foxbeautycosmetics.com. That's FOXX beautycosmetics.com has the promo code Stitch and Seam all spelled out. It'll give you 10% off your all vegan, not tested on animal products. And if you tuned into our Twitch, you would have gotten to see Fox showing them off himself. So lots of fun stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this week, we're doing another like featured material sort of a thing. Mercedes, do you want to tell us how you came up with that one?
Oh my gosh, we're like, what topic should we do? We want to do a material one again. And I like looked down at my floor and I was like, mock-ups, because I have a pile of just mess again.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, I need to make a mock-up.
What you mocking up?
I actually need to do a mock-up of Sabriel's like tunic kind of thing.
Ooh,
the surcoat.
okay.
There we go. The fancy
Okay.
surcoat that she wears. Because like I've got, I think I finally decided on the fabric that I'm going to do for the surcoat, but I need to do a mock-up first because if I mess it up, it's going to be sad.
Yeah, so patterning tools is our topic of the day, which I thought would be a lot of fun. And I didn't realize like how broad a topic it was, like just kind of like scratching the surface of the history.
Oh, for real? Like, because
it's
like
hard because like, well, not to cut you off, but
no, you're good. Go ahead.
It's one of the things that doesn't survive as well as a lot of other mediums. So like we know what clothing looked like in other time periods just because there's sculptures or there's paintings or there's woodcrafts, other things that survived a long time, and fabric can't always do that, especially when it's like sewn in certain way. Like it can get very delicate and fall apart over the years. So there are fewer historical like remnants, and it can be really hard to find sometimes. So like whenever I find a historic pattern, I get like super excited, or just kind of like learn more about like how a historic pattern is put together. It's always really fun. But when I was looking into the history, most of the ones I found said that like very little exists beyond the 17th and 18th century. Like we know a lot of the same tools were used that we use today, especially like measuring tape and chalk and paper and compasses. And most of the early patterns use like really simple geometric shapes instead of, we didn't get a lot of the close fitting garments that we have today until like the last few centuries. And watch me be like totally wrong and someone be like, well, actually, and like, please do, because I want to know if there were like other places.
We're not like historical experts on this.
No.
But like on that note, I want to actually point out something that was really interesting that I learned from my friend Brittany the other day.
Yeah.
Because she's also why I was like, oh man, we should definitely talk about mock-ups, because like her and I, like the whole weekend were just like, because we're both doing Abhorsen characters. And she mentioned Janet Arnold's. Jenna Arnold. Jenna Arnold did the history of fashion, which is like a series of books, but they like let her go into museums and like look at old clothing and like figure out how they were put together. And
that's
like
so cool.
The books are just full of the patterns
that's so
that
cool.
she created. Yeah, so cool. She did like the first couple of books and then she passed away, but like it's Patterns of Fashion, not History of Fashion, Patterns of Fashion. Like people continue that work. They go to museums, they get permission to, look at these garments up close and create patterns off of them.
That's freaking cool.
Yeah.
Yes. I just want to learn so much about like how things have been made. It's so fun.
Have either of you watched any Bernadette Banner?
No.
Bernadette Banner, no.
So she is one of those people who is just very drawn to Victorian era dress and fashion. Maybe not exclusively Victorian, but just like definitely older styles, maybe 1930s and earlier.
Yes, I do. Yes, I have seen her.
There's one video that I watched, and it's like a labor of love but she bought a working Victorian sewing machine from
my
like
gosh.
1892, and it's like filled with these really beautiful shots and her trying to figure out what's wrong with it and how to fix it and using it, and like she bought some other older clothes from the late 1800s, and it's like someone made this thing off of this machine, and it's fascinating to watch
That's so cool.
how far we've come, and at the same time it hasn't changed at all.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's so cool. Like, oh, I need to watch that video, it sounds like. But yeah, like, we thought patterning would be fun because it's kind of starting at the beginning. It's before you even put the needle to fabric. So we wanted to talk about some of the tools that, well, these ones were actually suggested by a website called metrorulers.com, just because they sell it as like a beginner's kit. But I liked it because they said like what the things are and like what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And like a lot of the tools you don't necessarily like know why do I need this tool or like what's it for.
Yeah, no, seriously, that's like my biggest thing is like I do a panel with Brittany on patterning, and like she gets up there and she's all like these tools and these things, and then I get up there and I just like pull out a dress form and I'm like, and I stick newspaper to it. And I love the contrast of that because it shows that like patterning can be very accessible. You don't have to get the fancy tools, but they do freaking help. Oh my gosh.
They do. And like especially when you're a plus size person, because it's so hard to find a dress form that you can just lay newspaper on. That was like one of the things I wanted to comment because like I'm so jealous when people are like, oh, I just laid this on my dress form, and I'm like, I wish so badly I could find a dress form that was my shape, but I cannot. But yeah, like they're two very different but like equally worthy and good ways to do things. And yeah, I thought we would start with some of the like there are so many rulers that you can use for making.
Just all depends on like what you're trying to make, right?
Exactly. So with curved rulers, you've got like a leg curve, a tailor's curve, a French curve, and there's also an L scale. And
I've heard of the French curve.
Yeah, so the French curve is basically for sleeves and necklines and collars, because it's for kind of like the smaller curves in a garment. So if you'd use like a leg curve for pants and bigger things, like where a French curve you would do like for small delicate curves. And the tailor's curve, where did that one go? Like honestly, I have never used a tailor's curve. I've used a French curve, and with leg curve, I didn't actually use one, but I had to math it out. And then like knowing that was a tool after, I was like, well, that would have helped a lot. Because I never know like how far, especially in a pair of pants, to like make it dip in on the booty, which is different for everybody anyway. But yeah, like learning how to use the different curves is really nice. And I had a thing I was going to say about this that was like smart and stuff, and now I'm just throwing out words.
Words and stuff and things.
I know. Well, like I like using like a compass for a lot of things, but that curve is just a very direct circular curve, and
yeah,
like
and
with
it's
a
like you gotta
French
have
curve.
a twisty curve.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like the curvature has to be at the right spot to make sense on a human body. And also, like, no curve is going to be exactly right. It's the same as patterns. Like, no pattern's going to be exact to your body. I get, like, I don't know, a little bit frustrated when someone picks up a commercial pattern and is like, well, it doesn't fit me exactly, and I used my exact size. And I'm like, yeah, it's the same as when you go to the store and buy an exact size 12, and it doesn't always fit an exact size 12. You kind of have to still tailor it to you. and make it fit in the way that you want, because everyone's going to have like a different length of torso, everyone's going to have different size of booty, everyone's going to have a different bust size, and those all make major changes to how a thing fits you. So like doing fitting when you're patterning is so important.
Yeah, it's like understanding the like how things go together. One of the big things that like I had to figure out with patterning was that a sleeve hole, like the hole that goes in the front of your shirt versus the back, are different shapes.
Yes.
And that was like, oh, okay, because like once you cut those right, it doesn't chafe under your armpit.
That is true.
I have so many old cosplays where it just chafes right there, and I'm just like, this hurts.
Oh, because you just cut the front and back the same?
Yep.
Yeah.
I was like, it's a hole. It's a circle, right? Or an oval, okay? Oval shape. No. It's like your chest and your back are shaped differently.
Oh, no. But yeah, so playing around with some of those like French curve ruler, like you can get them pretty cheaply online if you just want one to play around with, but it does make a huge difference in how things fit, especially in your arms. And being able to move your arm when you have like a tight fitted sleeve is really nice, as opposed to like when you can't raise your arms over like your shoulder. Not so much fun.
Can't put my arms down.
I know. One of my favorite tools that's also a very old tool is a compass. And I know we're used to seeing the compass, those like little metal pinchers where you have a pencil on one end and a pointy on the other.
Yankidos for art stuff.
Yeah, for art stuff, they're great. But like for a lot of things like doing the waist on a circle skirt, you might not have one that goes wide enough to go around your waist.
Gotta make a big one.
Exactly. And you can actually do that with like pin and a string and a pen. What I like to do is I pin my measuring tape. I just put a pin through the end of it, and I measure like how long I want the radius to be on my circle, and then I just like where it's pinned, it stays, and I can like turn it like a compass, and I just draw the line. Yeah.
I have to do math now?
I know, math. What? There are actually a ton of programs online that will calculate your circle skirts for you, which is super
That's actually really good to hear.
Yeah. So if you're not super into math, you don't want to do the pi r squared stuff, like it's there for you. And it will give you some pretty precise measurements if you just Google for like help me make a circle skirt. But yeah, the compass is also good for like when you want to do the outer edge of a circle skirt, because you can just keep it at that same point you pinned it in and extend it however long you want to, and it will still rotate at the same spot. And yeah, you can also do it with string. You can do it with like it's just a really versatile tool, and you don't necessarily need a lot to make it work, which is why I like it. And I do a lot of big skirts, so it's helpful. Having like this website suggested having a drafting table, and I wish we all had that kind of space and availability to have like a pattern cutting.
So is it just
table.
Like a large table with like a ruler mat kind of thing on it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Honestly, like any reliable flat surface is going to be good. But it's just nice to have something at table height so you're not like crawling around on the floor, but I often crawl around on the floor. It was only like when I was working in a sewing factory that I like had access to nice height tables, and that was fun. But crawling around on the floor also works as long as it's reliable and flat.
You can actually get a it's not like a big like square table, but long, like I think mine's 5 foot.
Oh, nice.
But the height of the table is adjustable, so...
Oh, I love adjustable tables.
Yeah, and it's like, I got it at, like, Home Depot. And, like, I can put it down low so that I can, like, sidle up with my little circle chair that I have. And just, like, you know, work on things while sitting low to the floor. And then I can also set it up high so I can stand and like map things out, draw it out, cut it out however I want to without ruining my back. It's so nice.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and then it folds up when I'm done, so it's out of the way and I can actually clear out my project room.
Oh, that sounds great.
In theory. Again, my project room. It's an absolute terror right now.
Oh no. I feel that in my bones. But yeah, finding yourself a flat surface, adjustable or not, there's a lot of options to do it. The next one, Mercedes, you mentioned this, is just using paper.
Yep.
Like you don't necessarily have to do your mock-up out of fabric. You can use paper. It's just like pattern.
Especially if you're doing anything like armor-based, using like paper, stiff poster board and things like that are like similar to the stiffness of the armor that you're creating. Those are super great for that. Yeah, so it's just like you can tape it to yourself, you can see how it feels on yourself, and then go and bill it.
And then also doing like those like duct tape dummies, you can get pretty close to. You might need a hand with a friend.
Yeah, I was like, get a friend that you're comfortable with.
Yeah, who can wrap you up in duct tape.
Yes. Also, don't put duct tape directly on your skin. That's dumb. It'll hurt. And 2, you should put saran wrap underneath so that it'll actually come off of your skin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you can wear like a junky old t-shirt.
That too.
And as long as you don't mind it being cut off of your bod.
That's again why you should get a friend you're comfortable with.
Also, you should get safety shears.
Yes.
I did not do safety shears one time, and I still have a scar from the time that the person went just a little too close.
Cosplay horror story.
Yeah. I think I may have mentioned that one in the past.
Yeah.
But yeah, make sure you have safety shears. They're very different from regular shears because they are a flat and they have a kind of a curved nose instead of a pointed nose, so you can't stab somebody with them as easily. Still can be stabbed. You can stab anybody with anything if you try hard enough. Sure. But it's a lot more difficult.
Goodness.
Anything can stab. Yeah, I was going to ask you, David, like, how did you do your patterning when you did Michael Carpenter?
I did the saran wrap, and actually, are you guys familiar with the Anarchy Girls cause space? So they used to be holding classes in the before times, and I made a duct tape figure of myself.
Nice.
1-to-1 scale. It was fun. It was a fun little class. We just everybody like picked a partner, and we just worked duct taping and saran wrapping each other, and then we stuffed it full of newspaper.
Good.
And then I could saran wrap that, draw out my pattern. I did buy a pattern from Evil Ted, but I was able to modify it from there.
Oh,
and
great.
then I cut it because I saran wrapped on top of the duct tape mold, and then I was able to cut it out, figure out what I wanted to do with that space. So that was the main way I did it. That's the main way I drew my pattern out for Michael. It's the main way that I'm planning on doing it for the Hollow Knight whenever I get back into that.
Yeah.
Nice.
I was going to mention, especially with props in particular, is paper is really helpful if you're like making everything from scratch and you want to play around with sizing. You can print things off 1-to-1. You can draw it out on your paper. You can do all your math on your paper.
Yeah.
I love paper. See, speaking of things you would do with paper is your pencils, pens, chalk, Sharpie markers. Basically, you need something to mark up your paper or your mock-up fabric and take notes and all that fun stuff. While you can use like a pencil if it's just on paper, I tend to use honestly, I just use Sharpie markers if I'm using mock-up fabric. I have like a few in black and then some in like silver, just so you can see it on dark colors. And I will just straight up like write on it with Sharpie marker, like add seam allowance here. If your mock-up fabric is your actual fabric, though, you may want to look into marking tools that are removable. So things like chalk.
Friction pens.
I was going to say I love friction pens.
Yes.
Which are pens that disappear when you heat the ink. So you can draw all over something and then just iron it and it will all go away. So
I was going to say, I think I've mentioned it before, but I love using it with embroidery.
Yeah. My mom didn't believe me the first time I did some marking stuff for her because she does quilting. And I was like, oh, Mom, you got to try a friction pen because she was doing this big fancy like Marilyn Monroe themed quilt. And she wanted to do lines in her skirt on that like iconic wind blowing pose. And I was like, okay, I'll draw the lines on for you with the friction pen and then you just follow them. And she's like, but it'll show up. It won't be gone completely. And I was like, actually. And she wouldn't do it until I gave her like a demonstration. And then she's like, oh, okay, I trust you. But yeah, it works really well, and the lines disappear pretty much completely, unless you like go up with a microscope and inspect it. It's pretty hard to tell where it was. But yeah, you can also get like Taylor's chalk. They make different kinds of like there's dusty chalk and waxy chalk, and it just depends on how badly you need it to stay on the garment before it washes off. But there's a lot of variety. Let's see, this Metro Rulers site suggested an awl, which is an AWL awl, which I actually haven't used and maybe I should be utilizing more.
I know, I saw that on your list and I was like, okay, so how is that used in patterning? Because I know how to use it in, like, leatherworking. But how to use it in patterning?
Well, you can, I mean, you're basically using it the same way where it just pierces a small hole.
Oh, okay.
But it pierces it in your pattern to mark like where a button needs to go or the end of your dart.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh no.
That would make putting like the button and the buttonhole lining up instead of me sitting there and being like, okay, do these line up? I think I marked it right, and like going back and forth and back. I could just stick a hole in it.
Yeah.
I learn new things every day.
Yay! That's what we hear. Like, I can't remember what it was I learned the other day, but I definitely learned something the other day. Which makes a whole lot of sense when I have like short-term memory and it's gone.
You'll relearn it again later.
I will relearn it again later. I'll be just as excited. Let's see. Oh, and tracing wheel. So like with tracing wheels, I don't know, I get them a lot in like sewing kits. My mom has given me like 4 of them and I have honestly used it maybe once. Just because if you're doing a mock-up in fabric, a tracing wheel is really helpful for putting it to paper after you take it apart, because you just trace around it without it moving and it leaves little tiny puncture through the paper.
I'll definitely use those. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there are a number of ways you can use them, but I think that's the most common. I could be mistaken.
I have like 3 of them, and I always look at them. I'm like, ooh, they're like mini pizza cutters.
Right. But spiky.
I've never used them. So I'm learning a lot today. Oh my gosh.
So,
guys, don't ever watch me pattern stuff. It's terrible.
Like, I think the reason with cosplay that I don't use a pattern tracing wheel as much is because if I'm doing something out of like a mock-up out of fabric, I'm not often trying to like archive it and keep a paper copy, which, you know, maybe I should, but I don't tend to be quite that organized. But yeah, if you want to keep a paper backup once you've made your fabric mock-up, it's a really good way to take a nice copy of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you mentioned this before, but dress forms, mannequins, similar things, especially when you're patterning something for armor or close-fitting garments, something that matches your form is super helpful. I honestly need to just try doing a duct tape one, but because I can't find anything that fits because I just am a not normal shape. Well, not normal shape, but you know what I mean. I am
You're a custom item.
I am a custom item. I am not something I can get my dress form to fit.
Even better, you're a custom magical item.
Hey,
Ooh.
But aside from the duct tape ones, I know there are some websites that you can send them your detailed specific measurements and they will send you a custom pattern to make a sewn one.
Didn't Rena do that?
I don't know if it was Rena. I know Sumikins did, and the dress dummy she made for it turned out really nicely and fits her costumes really well. So maybe I need to make that as a goal. And I think part of it is I'm afraid to give it my measurements because I'm oh no, then I will have to see my body. But then I'm but I can also pattern for my body. So
True.
And you have a beautiful body, so there's our dose of body positivity right now. You have a beautiful body.
But yeah, it would be super helpful if you're thinking about doing armor, especially, or even bodysuits and stuff. It's super helpful for when I was doing JoJo stuff. I did a muscle suit. And at the time I had access to a really nice adult dress form. It was actually a men's dress form, which was really nice. But I could do any painting and stuff on the muscle suit while it was stretched over a form instead of having to, guess or have someone else put it on or, it was super helpful. Yeah. Usually in these episodes with our tools, we talk about how to use it in fabric and we talk about how to use it in armor and then wigs. This one's kind of exclusive to fabric and some armor, but Mercedes, did you want to talk a little bit about how it lapses over or how it skirts the line into armor?
I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but it's really great for armor creation. You tend to use, stiffer things than just flimsy paper and fabric, and dive into using cardboard and poster board and things like that to try and get those harder shapes. Because depending on what kind of armor you're working on, armor tends to be hard. And it's super great for that because especially if you have one of those dummy forms or even just using yourself, you can fit the thing to you, kind of walk around in it for a little bit and, see how it fits, see how it moves. And I don't know, I'm not super professional when it comes to this kind of stuff. It's I'm literally I got a scrap piece of poster board in my room. I'll use that to build an armor piece. There's some garbage cardboard that we're gonna recycle. I'll grab a piece of that if I'm oh gosh, that's the right size. And then score it, especially if it's gonna be made into something like foam. Cardboard and foam kind of score similarly. And so I can create those similar shapes. And then as far as tools.
Explain what you mean by score.
That's where you cut a little groove in the foam or the cardboard without cutting all the way through, so it bends and makes a curve better.
So almost like a dart, or
not quite like a dart. You can make darts where you cut a V shape in it and then stick them back together. But rather it's just a.
So with foam, it's two different kind of things. This scoring. So one, it's used for kind of accent lines or highlights. Where think of it as what's that bumpy fabric that corduroy. think of it as like layers of corduroy, right? Like it has those pop-up layers and low layers in the fabric that are naturally there. So let's say that my chainmail armor I don't want to do chainmail, but I want to kind of give it like a mesh look. So I can score it or cut in only so deep. I don't want to cut all the way through, but cut it so deep, then hit it with a heat gun, and then they actually pull away from each other because the heat is melting it slightly.
Okay. So scoring is cutting without cutting all the way through. And you can do it on the front for details or on the inside to help it bend better.
Yeah.
Nice.
So like what Mercedes was describing was a great opportunity if you want like an angle, but you don't want to have to like glue it and then you have a seam line. If you cut that V groove on one side, but again, not all the way through, and then glue it together, you will have this like nice sharp angle. It's really great for like if you're doing futuristic armor or something along those lines.
I really like
Thank you, David.
Yeah, it was a good explanation, David. I really like doing that with like foam core board because it has like 2 layers of poster board and the foam core in the middle. So when I do like the Hylian shield, I'll do like several long lines of it to get a gentle curve, and then I'll put a thin layer of foam over so that it holds that curve with a little more rigidity. It's really nice. Ooh.
I like that.
Yeah. I tried to think of like ways that patterning goes into like wigs and makeup, but I came up really short this week. I'm sorry.
I think like, as far as like doing like a mock-up for wigs and makeup is just doing like that test makeup round where you're like, this is my makeup test. And with wigs, it's just like just sitting down and just starting to style it and kind of figure out, okay, does this look good? Because, like, one nice thing about wigs is as long as you don't, like, permanently install something on it, you can take it apart and do it again and be like, oh, that was terrible, I'm going to do it again,
No, I've seen some really cool stuff, like, with the extreme styles of wigs where people have done like a pattern of their head shape just to make sure that they're getting a really close fit before doing like a full foam wig, or doing one where they have to do different cutouts of different colors or to look like a side shave or so you can still use patterning and a lot of the same techniques in wig building. It's just not something you would normally think of to do, honestly. Yeah. Anything to add, guys?
I think patterning is really scary in the long run. Because Kaylin and I are really new to this, and like when we look at a pattern, especially like a dress pattern, it's got all these weird fancy instructions of cut on fold and pleat this, and like it's a lot of terminology. And it's one of those things like you're not going to figure it out until you fail. That's the long and short of it.
And like, honestly, we should do an episode where we go through like a glossary of terms that are used in patterns, because there's so much just terminology it's like learning a new language. You have to learn what all of these different things mean. It's a lot.
When I worked at a call center, they give you training on jargon. So, like, the internal jargon of, like, all right, so we're going to switch this account, and we're going to 721 the rest of it, and then make sure that the billing goes over to IT. Why is it going to... Oh, it's not actually information technology. IT stands for something. It's jargon that, like, makes life a little bit easier in the office, but then when you try to explain that to a customer, they're not gonna know.
Nope.
But... imagine like how helpful all of that information is if you actually know it. I think that's a great idea. I think we should definitely plan on a jargon episode.
Yes. All right. So yeah, that's a little bit about patterning. There's an awful lot more out there. So I feel like we just kind of like barely gave you an appetizer about it. But like, please go research patterning. It's a super fun thing to learn about. Do we have some horror stories? I know we've had a bunch of new ones on the Discord.
So we have a couple small ones, just really short. We have one from Phoenix Asakura. I once went as Jack Sparrow to a convention in London without a beard. That sounds horrendous. Like, that's just it's like you're driving to Colorado and you forgot all of your chiffon 5 hours away.
Don't call me out.
I'm just saying it happens to everybody. You forget the pivotal pieces, and it happens to everybody.
Oh, man.
Waterwoman writes, I was getting ready to compete with a costume for the first time. My car's air conditioning broke, and the Warbler under structure melted all over and into the white spandex the rest of the costume was made out of during the drive to the competition.
Oh, no.
I learned my lesson and will use more temperature-stable thermoplastics in the future.
I wouldn't even thought of that. Like, you're driving.
Yeah, especially with the AC being so pivotal. Like, even right now, like, my phone starts overheating just on the drive home, and we're not even in summer yet.
Right? Oh, gosh, my radiator exploded.
Oh, no. Stop. Yeah, so if you guys would like to share us some more horror stories, thank you for sharing those in our Discord. And if you guys want to read, there's actually some more in there if y'all want to hop on the Discord and read them. But if you'd like to send us some directly, you can do that at cosplaystitchandseam@gmail.com or
go to the website cosplaystitchandseam.com and fill out the googly Google form, or
go to the Facebook page, send us your message there, and while you're there, join our fantastic Work in Progress Wednesday group. They're such a great humans and just constantly sharing and upvoting and not upvoting, but lifting up others. That's the term. They're so kind and sharing and lifting up others and praising, what other people are working on. It's so fantastic. And if you're not a Facebook person, we totally get that. We do have a Discord. Go to Twitter for a little bit, go to our Facebook page for just a little while, and you can join our Discord page. Eventually, we'll put a permalink on the website, but for right now, keep your eye on those two places. And while you're on the internet, please, it's our birthday coming up. It would be a really great gift. It would be a great review from all of you. That'd be really nice. It'd be a wonderful little gift.
Nice.
So July, we're going to call July the review month, as well as the project month. So again, not only are you joining the club to share the podcast with a friend, you're also going to do our review month in July.
I'm just picturing getting all these totally burn reviews. Happy birthday! Happy birthday! Here's 1 star.
Oh no, not 1 star. It's not a birthday present if it's 1 star.
It's a star.
Gold star for your forehead.
Oh, but I want 5. I'm so needy. Okay, so if you want to leave us a review, that'd help us out a lot. Go to Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, Audible, wherever. We'll give you a shout out on the show. And if you want more of this silliness and you want to help make sure that this continues on, we do have a coffee, KOFI, Cosplay Stitch. Those help pay for the overhead. And also we have a Patreon, patreon.com/cosplay stitch. For $3 a month, $5 a month, you get some extra things, much like the fantastic people like Cynics, at Queer Eye Sci-Fi, How Cause, Hot Riku, Rena Mira, Jazzy Kofed, Jaguar Quinn, Gloria Shu, Sudi, Stacy Pitt, Shock H, and Silver Deeds.
Aw, yeah, thank you guys so much.
Woo! Much appreciated.
We still got our community project going, Mercedes?
Yes, get those fanfics in, 5,000 words or less, PG-13, by June 30th, there we go. I was like, what was the last day again? Oh, shoot, I forgot. By June 30th, and we will read those for our birthday month. You can send them in via link or download or however you want to do that. We'll figure it out and read it for you, and let us know if it was a specific person you want to have read it in a certain tone. Don't have me do accents.
I was gonna say, don't say tone. I can't do accents.
Oh, now I got to know.
I'm going to request Mercedes saying this one with a southern accent.
Give me
I
Australia.
do southern accent. That's because I've got southern family. But if you help me try to do any other accent, it's gonna be
New York.
Terrible. I have a generic one that I do. So you can ask my siblings. Everybody in Waterdeep has the same accent.
I'm going to request generic Mercedes fantasy accent.
Yes, this
Please.
is great.
It's a terrible one, I promise.
If y'all are looking for some awesome makeup, you can check out foxbeautycosmetics.com. Use the promo code Stitch and Seam and get 10% off your purchase. Thanks as always to Macy Roberts for the use of her music in our theme song, and David Jeffress for his amazing editing. How are your podcasts going, David?
Oh, they're going so great. Comic Trades Monthly. We are continuing to plug along and reading your favorite comic book collection in a book club format. We talk about the ins, the outs. What does it all mean? And, we're just going to do something silly this next time. We're going to be doing Power Rangers. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Yeah.
Yay!
I'm really excited to see what morals we can draw from, punch Rita Repulsa real good in the Megazord.
I'm so excited.
And then also there's The Last Voice, the story of a single survivor here in Salt Lake City, in a world very similar to ours, but not quite like ours, because, there are zombies walking around, and this guy is very sensitive. He doesn't even want to call them zombies, but he's doing his best, and I would really appreciate it if you went out and checked out The Last Voice.
Definitely. Very good. I have been enjoying it quite a bit.
Yay, thank you.
Yeah, I think that's all. So I was talking about cutting circle skirts, and it's like actually one of my favorite things to cut out, because you always get that inner piece.
Oh no. That was a really good one.
Because you cut out the middle. It's the inner piece. Bye, guys.
Bye.